So we could ask the question, how many civilizations are there in a galaxy like the Milky Way? Or specifically in the Milky Way galaxy? And the answer is we don't know. So it's a big galaxy, 400 billion stars. Most of them have planets, so there'll be trillions of planets. There's an estimate that there might be over 10 billion potentially Earth-like worlds in the Milky Way galaxy. There's a lot of places where life could begin and evolve. But on this planet, it took 4 billion years, roughly, to go from the origin of life to us. And so many people I speak to make the argument that that might be unusual. There's probably very few planets which have been stable enough to allow life to live on them for 4 billion years. So what I said at that climate summit was, to the world leaders, was, let's imagine that we're the only civilization in the Milky Way galaxy. Just a working hypothesis. Might not be, but might be. So let's imagine that we are. And let's imagine that you, being the leader, through deliberate action, which would be something like nuclear war, or inaction, like, failing to address the climate crisis or whatever it is, you cause this civilization to be damaged or even removed from the Earth. If you do that, then each of you may be personally responsible for destroying meaning in a galaxy of 400 billion suns, potentially forever.
Does that terrify you?
There's nobody else.
That terrifies me, that thought.
It sort of does. There's a very famous quote by Arthur C. Clarke, who said that either we are alone in the universe or we're not. And both of those are terrifying.
The terrifying bit, I think, is the lack of meaning, isn't it? Because yes, there's the lack of life, but the lack of meaning, which is only cultivated via the human brain.
I think that, as far as we can tell, meaning is a property of consciousness. It comes from consciousness, it comes from thinking. And thinking is something that we do, and we're physical structure. So it's something that emerges from a very complex physical system, the most complex thing we know of anywhere in the universe, which is the human brain. So my argument is that if there are no structures as complex as human brains on any of these other planets in the Milky Way galaxy, then there's likely no meaning there. I have a friend who was the Dean of Guildford Cathedral, a wonderful man called Victor Stock. I had loads of conversations with him, and in the end we figured out that the only thing we disagreed on was that he thinks meaning is eternal and universal, right? Because he believes in God. Whereas I think it's local and temporary. So I think it comes from us. But it kind of puts us back at the center of the universe in some strange sense, or elevates us, I think. It makes us very valuable because of the rarity of structures like us. We've spent the last 400 years demoting ourselves from the center of the universe physically and finding that we're physically insignificant. But I also think we've got more and more knowledge about what a remarkable and probably rare thing a human being is.